welcome to another 10-minute daily drawing exercise. And I thought it was time we had a bit more foliage in our 10-minute drawing. In fact, some foliage that can become the focal point of this drawing rather than something we very quickly have to do because there isn't enough time to give it adequate consideration. So, this wattle tree, I believe it is, in the streets of Paris is our subject. And it's come into flower. We can see the yellow blossom. We call them wattle trees in Australia or acacia bushes. In France, I believe they call these mimosa trees. But you can see me doing my usual tree thing of mapping out with some marks, some alignment guidance marks that I plan will, if anything, be slightly smaller than what I need so that I can cover them when I do my actual marks to bring the tree, hopefully, to life in some way. Now, this tree is a bit of a challenge because it has got blossom over it. So with a tree, the actual foliage is usually all the one colour. So we've only got one value that we're making lighter and darker according to the shade and the shadow that's happening. But on this tree, we actually have two different values, the lighter one for the blossom and the darker one for the leaves, that are each affected relatively in a similar way by the shadow that's being cast by the buildings in the street. It's just the very upper part that is showing the that has the lighter value because it's in sunlight. So I decided that I would try and still reflect the fact that there's lighter blossom as well as darker leaves, but that the whole thing is darker. So this basically means there's going to be a lot more hatching lines. So I need to keep moving quickly. So you are watching this real time, and this is probably the first of these drawings that I really have done from first to last in the 10 minutes. So this is my real drawing speed, and it doesn't look as fast as it felt when I was doing it, I can tell you that. I have that green tape on the pen simply to mark it out at the moment as one of a number of them that are exactly the same on my desk as the one that I actually want to pick up to use when I'm filming. So you can see what I'm doing, I hope, rather than trying to draw lines, because lines aren't really helpful for foliage in a tree most of the time. I'm really trying to block in some of the darkest values because they can help provide a, if you like, a path to navigate the rest of the tree throughout. So while I'm not trying to be exact, I am trying to be approximate. And you'll notice that I basically did the foliage first before I started to worry about the branches and the trunks. I have found that generally it's far more accurate to do the foliage first and then the trunks and the branches. When we start with the trunk first, which may feel intuitively the better way to go because it seems to make sense to start at the ground and move up. The problem I often see in so many drawings of trees is that the trunk ends up being too wide and the branches certainly end up being too wide for where the foliage, where the tree canopy stops. There simply isn't enough room within the tree canopy to credibly thin down those thick branches into thinner and thinner and thinner ones until they finally become fine twigs holding the leaves. And that creates a very unrealistic look. It also makes branches that often should have a sense of being a little bit elegant look thick and heavy and clunky. I find that by doing the foliage first, I get a sense of where the foliage starts and where the foliage ends. I can work out where is ground level, where does the tree go into the ground, how wide do I think it should be then, and then I always, my initial take, well, most of the time, is to do it slightly thinner than I think it really is so that I can thicken it later and hide that thickening line in amongst some hatching for the actual tree trunk. You'll notice I stuck a person in here. I don't intend to draw the street at all. I simply put the gutter in and some of these poles in to help just give a very small amount of context, and then also I put the man in also to help. I think my man is a little bit too small, and that has the effect of making the tree look bigger because We know the size of the man, so we can judge the tree according to that. But my tree is larger, much larger than the man is, I think. And also my foliage ends a bit higher up, which overall gives the sense of a taller, grander trunk than we have in the reference. But I'm sure the tree doesn't mind that I've drawn it somewhat more grandiose than perhaps it is in life. And I'm still basically working the same pattern. I'm doing my close, heavy hatching in almost like little circles or squares to reflect what we see in the foliage, which I think is something quite similar. And my plan is to come over the top of basically all of it, except for that very top bit in sunlight, with a looser, lighter hatching that will give the, if you like, the shadowed value over the top. And so the areas that are darker already in my foliage will become darker, and the areas in the foliage that are a bit lighter, where the blossom is, they will become darker, but they won't look as dark as the darkest areas. So that's my aim anyway. How successful I am? Well, we'll see. How successful will you be? Well, you've got my drawing as a starting point. So I hope you're able to use that to become even more successful in capturing the effect of the foliage. I find that with this sort of subject, it's good to try and keep the same pace up, whatever that is, because that helps to ensure that the whole tree goes together, that we don't have one part where it's in a little bit more detail or there's darker values, and that draws the eye more and other parts then look less finished. We want the whole drawing, and in this case the whole tree, to have a certain wholeness, coming together of all the parts in a way that somehow reflects realism. Tiny bit of hatching for the gutter. I don't really want to spend a lot of time in the gutter, but it does provide a little bit of an anchoring point for this. It stops it being a tree floating in space, which I think is a nice thing. Now, there is a neighbouring tree that comes in to the right-hand side of it. If I were doing this again, I just wouldn't have bothered doing that tree at all. I'd have just rounded off a little bit what could be behind that tree of the tree that we're drawing. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. So now I'm trying to just get some of the larger areas of hatching done to represent the shadow that's cast over the whole tree. And then I can work out what I want to do when I see if it's working, basically. In some ways, I feel like it might be looking a bit better, this drawing right now, than how it looks at the end. I may have overworked the foliage with the hatching, ironically, given that I was afraid of not having enough time to do all the marks. Let me know in the comments what you think, whether it looks better a minute ago, or whether in fact this still captures at the end the feel of the foliage. I feel like there's a fairly large section of blossom in the centre coming towards us that really is obviously lighter, which I don't think I've captured the lighter effect of that adequately in what I've done. But maybe in the last minute or two, I will improve that. Of course, you'll find this on my channel community page, this reference photo, and please hit the like button if you're still with us at this point and you haven't already. And this is one of a series of daily drawing exercises. So they're all on a playlist, so if you'd like to use these for 10-minute everyday drawing, where you don't have to lose time trying to find what to draw or something that can be done in the time you've got, then this playlist is your answer. Now, basically trying to fill in the gaps. There are some spots where we can see right through the canopy, and if we were painting, then we could put little dabs of blue sky to represent those. When we're drawing with a pen, it's a bit trickier to capture that effect because it sometimes just looks as if we haven't quite hatched enough and we've left some gaps, and it's not always clear what they're meant to be. Every medium has its joys and its challenges, and I've painted many a tree canopy in my oil painting days, and I used to love putting those little dashes of brilliant cobalt blue or cerulean if it's a lower down in the sky part of a canopy. And we're just about done. That's our 10 minutes up. What do you think? G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Well, I had a lot of fun doing this. I think we might try and do a couple of various foliage things maybe in the next ones of these videos and just reset the balance of subject matter. So I hope you give them a go and put just as much effort into getting these right as the architecture. But look, honestly, whatever you're drawing, however you're drawing it, in whatever time you're drawing it, make sure you have fun. I certainly did with this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.